My name is Alex and I'm a former GATE kid or gifted and talented kid, and I've been diving down this rabbit hole for a couple of weeks now. And this topic has become fascinating to me. I can't make enough videos about it because one rabbit hole leads to another, and I'm finding endless connections between my experience as a GATE kid and neurodivergence and early adult trauma, early childhood programming, the MK Ultra experiments, and the rabbit hole continues to get deeper and deeper. I've made multiple videos on this subject, and one of the things that has especially fascinated me is our relationship with water. So that's what I wanted to talk about today, because a lot of people on YouTube have had the experience of having a near drowning experience, and they're also a gifted kid. And then a lot of people in my gifted kids Facebook group have also reported that they had early childhood experiences of near drowning, myself included. So I wanted to share a little bit about that and my theories, because there's so many fun ideas to explore with this. So first off, my personal experience with drowning was when I lived in Florida. I was about 7 or 10 years old. We were on vacation, and my little brother, who was still wearing water wings, randomly swam over on top of my head, and I couldn't swim away from him because I was in the deep end, and he climbed on top of my head, and I literally thought I was going to die. It was extremely traumatic for me, and right as I was starting to almost lose consciousness, my brother just randomly swam off. And I jumped out of the water immediately and started crying and ran to my dad and was like, I almost drowned. But the weird thing about that, which I don't know if this is part of conditioning or what, but feeling like I was almost drowning, and my dad was not, I don't know if he saw it. I think he might have been probably preoccupied with my sister. So I'm not sure if he saw it, and I don't know if he necessarily took my claim seriously because he didn't see it. So he's probably just like, oh, okay, maybe she's overreacting, which seems to be a common thing that I've experienced with a lot of adults in my life. So I don't know if that's just part of the gate kid experience or the neurodivergent experience, where you just are super sensitive and other people in your life, family included, just are not as sensitive as you. So they can't really relate. They don't necessarily know how to relate when you bring up things that happen to you. Because I've kind of been the black sheep of my family for a number of years now. I don't feel like I started out that way, though. A lot of my problems didn't manifest until adulthood, which leads me back to the questions I have about our childhood programming and about water specifically, and the fact that a lot of people who are sharing in the comments on YouTube and in Facebook have experiences with water. So a number of things come to mind here. The idea of being baptized in water, if you're a Christian, because that is about wiping the slate clean and reprogramming your beliefs if you get baptized in water, right? So there's one angle. Then you think of like secret ops or the FBI or CIA, whatever not necessarily those groups, but in TV shows, when you see people capture the enemy and they are performing tactics like waterboarding the subject, right, to get them to talk. And then you have the other angle of a lot of gate kids and gifted program and psychic kids who have memories of their past lives and very vivid dreams, and they can travel and fly and do all these things. So their potential connection to extraterrestrial races, are they hybrids? Are they Pleiadians, Starseeds, or Arcturans, or Syrians, or a lot, what's the other one? I saw another one. Is it Lemurian, or it is, I can't think of the name, but the lion one. You guys might be able to help me out in the comments on that. But that's another door to explore and go down with this, because a lot of people who are gifted kids or spiritually sensitive have this weird connection to aliens and starseeds and seem to think that they're starseeds. So what's really, really interesting, and what is I'd love to explore with you guys, is this idea that as gate kids who are waking up at the same time, who are obviously experimented on, or else we wouldn't have had weird, icky feelings when we listen to the Gateway tapes again, or remember the pink fluoride water, or the hearing test, or just the general feeling of kind of distrust and confusion about what happened to us in childhood. if we didn't experience some kind of trauma, I don't think those feelings would have come up. And the fact that we're all waking up at the same time is rather interesting, because it leads me to a question, and a lot of question that a lot of people are also asking. Are we sleeper cell agents having a collective awakening right now? And my other question is, if we were experimented on, could we have been programmed with the thought that we're star seeds? And could this be part of something more sinister? I don't know if this is a sinister agenda or not, but MK Ultra or Project Blu-ray, where I'm not super sure, so somebody might have to help me out in the comments, but I think the Blu-ray, Project Blu-ray, is this idea that the government could be planning for an extraterrestrial contact event, but it would be in the form of holograms or something in the sky. So saying that it's not real, but that opens a lot of doors for questions too, because these people who feel a connection to ETs, it feels very real to them. And a lot of us have had actual abduction experiences, whether they were dreams or whether they were experiences that felt really real. But a lot of us have not been able to talk about them because people think we're crazy when we do. So myself included, I had a very vivid dream that I still remember into adulthood, but I don't remember being experimented on or anything weird. I just remember standing there frozen. And the other weird thing about my ET experiences is that when I was a kid, I'd always be sleepwalking and I'd always end up on the stairs. So something about the stairs, and I'd always wake up in the bathtub, which leads me back to water. Water could be it's an amplifier of energy, I believe. And I believe crystals are just really crystallized, fast-moving molecules that kind of act like water. And water, if you've probably seen the memes like I have and the things going around on Facebook where water can be programmed with emotions and feelings, and the water molecules will change structure based on the type of frequencies that are played with the water. So we can literally program our water with intentions. So is there some kind of connection to our minds or our bodies? The fact that we're made up of 70% water, the fact that we're connected to the moon because the moon controls the tides, and just like the tides, we're also affected by that. So was water, which also represents the subconscious or the unconscious, was that used somehow in our childhood programming? I had the thought this morning, like, what if there was some kind of tape that they played for us or some kind of exercise they had us do that involved water? The other interesting angle to explore, which is a little more esoteric, is this idea that a lot of gifted kids or gate kids are actually indigo souls. And if you don't know what an indigo soul is, it was a coin that was termed by Dolores Cannon, and she recognized a lot of these indigo spirits who had a very active sixth chakra, which is your third eye area, the pineal gland. She noticed that kids, I think it was starting in the 40s and then maybe some in the 50s and then around the 70s and around the 80s and 90s, she noticed 3 waves of indigo souls on the planet. If you're okay, crazy chills right now, this feels like confirmation and something worth exploring. But indigo spirits, common traits that they have, strong feeling to rebel against authority, very independent, often diagnosed as some kind of neurodivergent, so ADHD, Asperger's, autism, bipolar, borderline, etc. Often have problems with addiction at some point in their life until they're able to find a more spiritual path. Very sensitive, very intelligent, high IQs, and again, emphasized on rebelling against authority. They feel like they're here on a mission. They feel the mission very deeply in their soul. They know they're here for a reason, and that often has to do with changing some of the old Earth systems. So Dolores Cannon noticed that a lot of these kids were born around that time. And I know for a fact that I have an indigo aura because I went to Psychic Fair in 2017 and got my aura read, and it was indigo just as I suspected. So I have also come in contact with a lot of other gifted kids who I just intuitively sense that they're probably an indigo. So I don't have any way of confirming that other than it's this feeling that I get when I meet certain people. And I think I notice the energy imprint or the energy signature. It's people who share the same traits. And you can even tell sometimes by the type of music they listen to. They tend to like music that is very thought-provoking, with really good lyrics and deep lyrics with a lot of metaphors and symbolism, people who are storytellers, and then the music that they often are drawn to is emotional in nature. Not I guess all music is emotional in some nature, but that's actually not really true because there's genres like rap and stuff that aren't always like emotional. So I'm thinking more like folk music or indie music, or this combination of emotions and sensitivity blended with a good storyteller. And a lot of indigos or sensitive children also have synesthesia, which I think I have, but I've never really been able to get the official like diagnosis or whatever. But I've always been able to listen to music and then I can sense what colors are in it. So I make music myself, and a lot of the music that I'm drawn to listen to and the music that I'm drawn to create seems to have a lot of indigo tones and blue tones in it, and magenta purple, which is your crown chakra, and then the indigo and the blue are the third eye. So I think that's, and a brighter blue is the throat chakra. So it's the upper chakras that are really active, and it's active in the music. And I believe a lot of us who are creatively talented in that way actually create a different kind of music with a naturally different vibration. Because I know for me, when I started playing guitar when I was younger, I used to naturally tune it to 432 hertz without recognizing that my guitar was always tuned down a little bit. And 432 hertz is the vibration of, I believe, of nature. I was going to say the heart chakra, but I think the heart chakra is 528 hertz. But 432 is the vibration of nature and the earth. And most music that's modern day music is tuned to 440 hertz. So I believe another trait that indigo children might share is some kind of creative or artistic ability. And if they are part of the wave of souls who's here to share their gifts with the world in the form of music, they often have something special or unique about their voice, where there's healing codes in their voice or in the type of music and frequencies that they're drawn to play. So I think that's very interesting. So back to water, because my ADD gets hopped around. But what do you guys think? I'm curious to hear other people's perspective about what you think the connection to water is, because I have 3 different theories. One of the theories was that we could be these old souls who are indigo children who could also be connected to Lemuria and the lost city of Atlantis, because the fall of the civilization of Atlantis had to do with experimentation, and there's a lot of that going on in society now. And there's a lot of people who are saying that I got chills right now, more confirmation, but a lot of people are saying that this time around, whoever they are not going to win. So whether that's the Nephilim or the Archons, I've heard so many different ways of explaining this, and there's so much information out there, so how can we be sure? But if there are Watchers or Archons or Nephilim or whatever, maybe why the world has been so crazy right now, and why there's been a lot of people out to stifle our gifts and water them down and brainwash us and program us in early childhood, is because they know that we're coming and they know we're here to shake up the system. And there's so many of us that the only chance they had against us was to keep us asleep somehow. And they've done that through controlling us with substances, by pushing substances in our faces all the time and making it so normalized and making you feel weird if you don't participate in drinking or, doing that. And then the early childhood programming, games like Oregon Trail that were designed to be educational, yet at the same time, every time you played it, there was some kind of life or death situation, and you were always dying from dysentery or getting attacked, or there's a natural disaster or a flood, so you couldn't cross the bridge, or your family died, or you couldn't be operated on. There was a number of scenarios that made it seem like the world is not a safe place, a very scary place, especially for gifted children, especially if we're going along the theory that maybe gifted kids, or some of the gifted kids, because side note, there also were supposedly 2 groups in the GATE program. So group 1, group 2. Group 1 went off to be doctors and lawyers and military people and successful members of society. Group 2 went down another path. They were neurodivergent. They were on psych meds. They were substance abuse issues. They were college dropouts, etc. So if you're part of that second group, especially, could that mean that maybe your gifts were more pronounced? Were you experimented on in some way? But I'm so curious to hear more from you guys in the comments. What group do you think you are a part of? Do you resonate with the whole indigo soul theory? Do you resonate with this idea that you could potentially be a starseed or an ET from another dimension here to change the vibration of Earth and ground it in the new Earth heart-centered frequency? What do you think of that theory? Are you more logical? And you're like, what the F are you talking about, Alex? That doesn't seem real or logical at all. I'm just curious to hear more from you guys and what you think. What do you think the connection of water is? Do you think we're connected to Atlantis or Lemurian? Because the other thing is, when I was little, this was after I'd already been in the GATE program. So I used to swim in the pool and act like I was a dolphin and sing like I was Ariel. And I did this often, like nearly all the time, because we used to vacation a lot in Florida as a kid. So I was always connected to the water, always obsessed with mermaids and dolphins. And that's the other thing about Indigo Souls. I think there's some kind of connection between dolphins there. And I think dolphins might be some kind of, have some kind of connection to Lemuria or Atlantis, and they're extremely smart. And I heard somebody coin the term dolphin gene. So that might be something that we as indigo children have, or as starseeds or gifted kids or whatever the F we are, have the dolphin gene. And I've also heard the more nefarious theory that that could be related to the vaccines that were around in the 80s and 90s and possible experimentation on opening up certain strands of our DNA. So my question is, like, did they experiment on us and that's why our DNA is open and why we're different? Or did we naturally come to the earth like that, and then we were being screened from a young age and they could tell that we were gifted souls because we were talking at 1.5. We were reading by 3. We were doing things way earlier than other kids were. So they saw this and they caught onto this, and then they doubled down on experimenting with us. And then there's a lot of CIA documents, declassified documents out there that are talking about how the government was actually experimenting on psychic abilities. They were trying to figure out how they work, who had them, etc. So please feel free to share your comments. Feel free to share your theories. Feel free to join the Facebook group about GATE. I'm going to link it all in the description. I'd love to hear from you. Would love to share theories with you as we uncover this rabbit hole together.